Hello, my name is Nicole, and thank you so much for taking the time out to listen. The question I ask is, who betrayed you? Somebody betrayed someone. Someone is contemplating all sorts of things to do to pay this person back. Those of you all who are familiar with my past audios on revenge, that's not a good idea. Someone says, why? Because, well, first you need to think about your health. Why my health? Because if you end up doing some things that you know that you cannot withstand the pressure, the stress, and everything that comes with doing what you did, your health eventually will start to fail. Because you see, some dirty acts, you got to be cold-blooded to do. And I don't know if some of you all who claim to be believers right in Christ, I don't know if you could be able to withstand Satan's oppression, suppression, guilt, shame, and everything that comes with playing his game. Another thing, you may not be prepared for what is ahead if you should go ahead and do something like jail, for instance. And you may not be prepared for those children or grandchildren or whoever you may be connected with for their tears. You may not be prepared for them. Because I will tell you that hurts deep to see somebody behind bars crying, and it hurts deep to be on the other side and see somebody cry. But some of you all who have been there, done it, seen a movie, you know that is not the way to play. You're going to pull law enforcement involved. You're going to pull the attorneys and so forth. You're going to make the necessary phone calls, and you're going to do as much as you possibly can. And even if you don't feel like their service is adequate, then you find somebody else, and you keep finding somebody else while you're praying. That's key. Oh, in some of these situations, you see, you can't just do what you want when you want and hope for the best. Oh, no. Some of these situations are so tough that you've got to get the supernatural involved. Yes, I'm going there. I'm going right there in that conversation that some people start to bristle, start to get a little bit of an attitude. Oh, no, here we go, talking about God. Yes. And some of you all who don't want to hear about God, well, hey, it's a free world, isn't it? You don't have to leave anything negative. You don't have to put a thumbs down. You don't even have to listen to the rest of this message because, hey, if you were having a good day, by all means, I don't want to ruin your day. But evidently your day isn't going so well because you're listening to this message. So you might as well listen all the way until the end. Because somebody betrayed you, right? That's why you're here. Or you know someone who betrayed someone else and you want to do what's right. Well, let's take a look at Jesus, who was betrayed by someone who was walking amongst his group. Somebody who any of us would have thought was okay and was all right. Judas agreed to betray Jesus. We see this in Matthew 26. Well, how does this relate to my situation? I'm glad you asked. You see, sometimes we put our trust in people, right? And we want them to do what is right. We trust that they're going to take care of, financial responsibilities. We trust that they're going to love us. We trust that they're going to run errands and that they're not going to do anything stupid along the way. We trust that they're going to say the right thing, right? We trust so much. But the Lord says, you see, this is why I tell you to guard your heart. I tell you to guard your heart because I don't want you to end up losing it. I don't want you to end up doing something that is so hurtful and so wrong to someone else. I am the one who told you, yes, to love your enemies, but I don't want you to be a fool for them. You see? When I tell you these things, it's to keep you out of trouble, right? Like that parent wants to keep their child out of trouble. Can you see that? Okay, some of you all can see it. So in Matthew 26, verse 14, then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priest. Okay, that's a problem right there. He went to the chief priest. So he carried information. And some of you all, that is why you feel betrayed, because someone, it wasn't a thing that they did in terms of material stuff, right? It was the fact that they took information and carried it. Information that you thought they would never carry. But somehow, some way, whether they were manipulated into giving the information, whether they just went on and did it because there was some type of financial gain, come on, like Judas, they gave this information, they carried it. Okay, so they betrayed you. Let's read on. So Judas went to the chief priests and asked, what are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you? Okay, so not only that, but there's selfishness that takes place, right? When someone betrays you, they have their reasons, whether we know them or not. It's just the idea that selfishness was involved. There was selfishness involved when a man cheated on his wife. There was selfishness involved when the man came over and said, what are you going to do for me if I do this for you? There was selfishness involved when we asked the question and then the person turned over the information. Should they have given that information? Well, it's too late now, right? But they got their benefit. They got their little gift. They got their money or what have you. You all been in situations like this. Some of you all, not all, where you wanted to know something and somebody said, well, how much? You wanted to know something. They said, okay, well, what you going to do for me? Right? We can see it on that end, right? Maybe we betray some folks in the past. Okay, I can put my hand up. I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm perfect and righteous and so holy. I wouldn't be holding on to Jesus as much as I do if I was that way. But I will tell you, though, that after a while, you get tired of going through behind betraying folk. You see what I mean? You get tired of having to be that one that's in darkness. You get tired of having to reap the consequences of sin. And so you say, you know what? This is not for me. And then you end up having a conscience as you walk with Jesus. And you don't want that conscience to be seared. You don't want to keep thinking things. Okay? So you stop doing some things. But then the tables turn and now you get to experience what it was like when you betrayed some folk, whether you were a child doing it or whether you were an adult doing it. He betrayed me. Do you realize what he did to me? She betrayed me. I'm telling you, I trusted her. I loved her. I would have done anything for her. Right? Some people practically crack up when they realize that a friend, that a family member, that someone even on the street that they only knew for 5 minutes betrayed them. Okay? Oh, but I tell you what, we serve an awesome God, right? Because he's going to show us some things. And that is why we're in these scriptures. And that is why I'm talking to you today. My Life Application Study Bible, New International Version, says, why would Judas want to betray Jesus? Why would someone want to betray you? Let's think now. Let's go deep with this. Why would someone want to betray you? Are you sure? Are you sure that you loved him enough? Are you sure that you gave him enough? Are you sure? Was there something that you said repeatedly that turned them off? Was there something that you did that just cut them so deeply that they said, I got to pay this fool back? And so they marked you. They did something to pay you back. The next point, Judas, like the other disciples, expected Jesus to start a political rebellion and overthrow Rome. As treasurer, right, he was holding the money. He was holding the money. Somebody may have betrayed you concerning money, related to money, connected to money, right? As treasurer, listen up, Judas certainly assumed, as did the other disciples, see Mark 10:35 through 37, that he would be given an important position in Jesus's new government. Okay? But when Jesus, listen up, but when Jesus praised Mary for pouring out perfume worth a year's salary, that budget-minded Judas, right? That financial expert Judas. Judas may have realized that Jesus's kingdom was not physical or political, but spiritual. So even though sometimes we feel like we didn't do anything to deserve anyone betraying us, they have their own ideas in their mind. They got their own thoughts. They got their own agenda. They got their own fantasies. And when one doesn't meet one's personal prerequisites, that person becomes a bit offended. We've got an offended Judas, an offended financial expert budgeter, right? Sitting up here, got his issues rather than sitting down and talking to Jesus and finding exactly what is going on. Oh no. Judas's greedy desire for money. Listen, Judas's greedy desire for money and status could not be realized if he followed Jesus. And that is what drove this man to do what he did. Somebody has some type of thought in their mind, some kind of demonic entity, if you will, in and around them that moved them to betray you, that moved them to go ahead and do something, and you couldn't think for the life of you why they would. Sometimes people will draw out folks' weaknesses, especially a child. Sometimes that savvy one, that sneaky one, that deceptive one, that evil one, that narcissistic type, or whatever other personality disorder they have, knows how to get to some folks that's closest to us to get them to start talking. I need to know some information, okay? And I promise you that I won't say anything. This will just be between you and I, okay? Tell me this, and then they play on some weakness first if you don't give up the details right away. You know, I was thinking about buying you A, B, and C. Oh, really? Yes, yes. Oh, yeah, by the way, what did your mother, your grandmother, your father, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your aunt, your uncle say about... Oh, are you going to get such and such for me? Absolutely. Now back to what I was asking you. What did your mother, your brother, your sister, your cousin, your uncle, your auntie, you see? Oh, they play this little game on children. I was a victim of that for years. For years. And then when you get older, you get a little bit wiser, so they know this about you, so they got to come in another direction. I know that you've been having some financial issues, and I know that you've had some, problems with this, that, and the other. I would love to be able to help you, and they'll list all these things that they can do for you, and then they will start asking you some questions, and they're going to flatter you in between the questions, and they're going to talk about how wonderful and smart and how great you are, with the intention of getting you to come forth with some information about someone else or about something that you got going on with a group or what have you. You see, I got to break you down, says Satan. I've got to find out what your weaknesses are, and you make it real plain. Sometimes. But God says, okay, this is what I want you to do. Number one, I want you to stop telling everybody everything that's going on with your personal life, with your professional life. And there are certain things, though, that we're going to stay mum about. Other things you can share. I need you to learn from this particular situation where this one betrayed you, how you are to talk to people going forward. I need for you to handle your finances in the way that I've moved you to handle your finances so that you don't get played in the future again. Are you going to learn the lesson in the betrayal? Oh, there's a lesson. That's the answer to the question on why you were betrayed. There is a lesson to be learned in the betrayal. There is a lesson to be seen. There is a lesson to be learned in a way that is going to teach others as well. So here Judas is with his own thoughts on what he wants and when he didn't get what he wanted. Well. Judas Judas's greedy desire for money and status could not be realized if he followed Jesus. So he betrayed Jesus in exchange for money and favor from the religious leaders. In order to learn a lesson, you've got to get some understanding on the betrayal. You've got to get some understanding. I didn't say all, but you got to get some understanding. And sometimes some of that understanding comes from what you said leading up to the event, what you did leading up to the event. It could have been years of stuff. You're not going to have a pity party once you find out. You're not going to sit up there and go off into a place of guilt. You're not going to go and become that one that's self-blaming. You're not going to be that one that's going to get angry either and do what I said earlier and exact some revenge on some folks. No, what you're going to do is you're going to see the lesson, value the lesson, and make some changes so that you don't get played again. And through all of this, you're going to teach others, because there's other people out there that are about to set foot into some territory, or they're about to say something or do something that's going to set them up to be betrayed. I remember my grandmother said, "Can no woman take your man?" I said, "Okay." She said, "But you can give your man away." Some of you all, the man is cheating emotionally and or physically. Why is he doing this sort of thing? He has his reasons. Some reasons may have something to do with you, and other reasons, well, it's like Judas, right? Selfish. Just selfish. I can have whatever I want. I don't have to deny myself anything or anyone. And selfishness has consequences, doesn't it? And it doesn't have to come in the form of taking somebody out of here, right? Because, of course, we know there's consequences. So that is why we get God on the case. And some of you all, it's time now. We're going to get God in on the case. We're going to, first of all, tell him how we feel. And I don't care if it's tears. I don't care if it's fears. You don't have to set up a conversation with God so it sounds perfect and professional and all of that like you would if you were talking to a manager or a business owner. You go to God raw. You go to God with the pain. You go to God with the tears. You go to God with the frustration. And then you're going to sit quietly after your emotional outbursts of why, God, and after all I've done. You're going to sit quietly. You're going to collect your thoughts. You're going to breathe deep, in and out slowly, and relax, because you don't need no heart attack over this. Okay? And then you're going to take out a piece of paper and pen. And if you don't feel like taking out a piece of paper and pen, then you better put your memory to use, because you're going to need to list everything that led up to this betrayal. Assumptions, right? Some thoughts, some things that you didn't anticipate. Okay? But you are going to think of all of these things. And then once you do, then you are going to get to a place where you're going to pray, not emotional, not upsetting, but you're going to pray calmly, and you're going to ask the Lord to deal with those issues. Because you don't want to end up doing anything that's going to cause major problems for yourself and those that you love. And then what you're going to do is take that piece of paper, put that in the Bible, because that's going to be symbolic of letting go and letting God. That's it. It's nothing magic about it. It's just letting go and letting God. You'll put that Bible up there on the shelf, and then you're going to start watching and listening. And you are going to be looking for things like God's signs, things that he is at work. You're going to be looking at the resources if you need them. The resources that you need in order to get some things done. And you'll know that you're on the right track because you're going to feel good inside and out, and everything's going to go smoothly when you make the phone call, when you visit, the office, wherever that office might be. If it pertains to your situation of betrayal, you're going to sit down with the necessary counselors and so forth. Everything's going to go smooth. Sure, the enemy will have his little hiccups along the way, but for the most part, it's going to go smooth because you're making every effort to do things in a way that is practical and smart, because you never want anybody to come back and say that what you did is why we have to arrest you, or what you did is why you are in the hospital, or what you did is why so-and-so is 6 feet deep. That's why you got to play things smart, right? Do things smart. And then the other thing is that you are going to get to that place in your walk, because you're trusting in the Lord, where you're going to focus in on Him, not your situation and not that person. There's no sense in obsessing over things that you don't put in God's hands. You don't pray about it every single day, unless, of course, your mind is plagued with a whole lot of evil thoughts again, then you go through this process again. But for the most part, you are going to focus in on the things that matter to you, on the people that matter to you, on the service that you need to bring to others. So you may be focused on your job a little bit more than usual. You may be focused on your hobby a little bit more than usual. You may find yourself doing more for others during this time period, because once again, you are staying out of that obsessive mindset. That one that keeps you off the things of God, keeps you bound, keeps you depressed, keeps you suicidal, messed up, twisted, whatever. No. There's no need for any of that. And you're not going to keep talking to people about it either. Because I know that people who go through betrayal, I know I was one. You like running your mouth a lot about the stuff that people have done. And I'm telling you, after a while, it just tires you out. And then you feel like you don't want to do anything. You don't feel like, tending to your hobby. You don't really want to care for your children because you're so busy crying. You're so busy just bad mouthing and everything else. And God is not going to bless you, and nor is He going to deal with your enemy if you are going to play on the side of the enemy. You see what I mean? If you want to play on the side of the enemy and be that child of darkness, you are not going to get the results that you need. Okay? So, I hope that this message is a blessing to those of you all who question why. But as you all know, if you keep reading, you know that Judas, in the end, he ends up suffering behind what he did to Jesus. And that's just might what happened to those or to those who offended you. Okay? So, don't lose heart. Don't lose sleep. Do what you can to just feel better about your situation, okay? And God will see you through. I'm a witness. Well, that is it. Please do check the description box for anything that might be of interest. You've been listening to YouTube NM Enterprise 7. Feel free to subscribe. Check the description box for a donation link if you would like to give. Well, that is it. Blessings to you.